Hello, I'm Dave. Now, I've often wondered what it is about Britain that made it Great Britain. And yeah, I know that Britain had an empire, but I don't think it's the ability to wage war and beat up other countries that makes it great.
Wars not make one great.
No, it has to be something else. Something that made this unremarkable little island special. Like it's got some destiny or it plays some part in an epic story. In the book of Genesis, the Most High made a covenant with Abram, his friend. And that's in Genesis chapter 12 verse 2. And it reads, "And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing." Now, there's only ever been one country that's been named great. And given that Britain is a Hebrew word meaning land of the covenant, referring to that very covenant, then it's a safe bet that the British, or in Paleo-Hebrew, the men of the covenant, are that great nation that the Most High was speaking of. In this video, I'd like to explore who the British actually are and what part this nation played in the greatest story ever told. Now, before the people of Basildon, Hartlepool and Skegness start puffing up their chests, we all have a sense that whatever made this country great has long since departed from these shores. And it's not because the empire is gone or that Cadbury's chocolate now tastes like arse. It's because, for the most part, the great British people are no longer in this land. And that for 2,199 years, it played a vitally important part in biblical history. But that part ended 407 years ago. In the 49th chapter of the book of Genesis, the great patriarch Jacob gives his last words to his sons. Now that's Genesis chapter 49 verse 10. And it says, "The sceptre shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be." And the meaning of that is that Judah, the royal tribe, shall always be in rulership. Now, this prophecy is further refined in the Most High's covenant with David. And you can find that in 2 Samuel chapter 7 verses 12 to 16. And it reads, "And when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. And if he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men, and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it away from Saul, whom I put away. And thine house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever." It turns out that despite what history and fake religions may have taught you, this is exactly what has happened and is in the process of happening now. But I have to take you back to the beginning of Judah's lineage. So Jacob told his 12 sons not to marry Canaanite women, just as he was told by his parents Isaac and Rebekah. But Judah disobeyed, and he married a Canaanite woman and had 3 sons by her. So the firstborn was then there was Onan and Shelah. So Judah chose Tamar as a wife for his firstborn, but was a wicked man, so the Most High killed him. So he killed him before he could have children. So the duty fell on Onan to marry Tamar and raise up seed in his brother's name. But he was also killed for his wickedness. And since Shelah was still a child, Judah instructed his daughter-in-law Tamar to wait until Shelah was grown up so that she could marry him instead. Now, when Shelah had grown, Judah didn't marry him with Tamar. So she tricked Judah into having sex with her, and she became pregnant with twins. Now, that set the stage for one of the most important and overlooked events of the royal lineage. If we go to Genesis chapter 38, verses 27 to 30, it reads, "And it came to pass in the time of her travail that, behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass when she travailed that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound a scarlet thread on his hand, saying, This came out first. And it came to pass, as he drew back his hand, that, behold, his brother came out. And she said, How hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee. And therefore his name was called Phares. Phares actually means breach. And afterward came out his brother, that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was Zara. Now, Zara's name means rising. It sometimes can mean seed. But both Zara and Phares had a legitimate claim to the kingship, because technically Zara came out first, and the midwife confirmed it. But then Phares was born, and the midwife prophetically blurted out that there will be a breach somewhere in Phares' line, and that the meaning seed or rising suggests that Zara's line will heal that breach. Now, children's names in the Hebrew scriptures often point to what that child would grow up to be, or do, or represent. And we'll see later that this is no exception. Phares and Zara were born before the sojourning in Egypt. And it's in Egypt that Jacob gives the prophecy, the sceptre shall not depart from Judah. And because Phares was the firstborn, it would appear that the prophecy is only relevant to Phares. And it's probably the reason why Zara and his children left Egypt 200 years before the Exodus to seek their own destiny. Zara had 5 sons: Ethan, Zimri, Heman, Calcol and Darda. And while the Old Testament doesn't explicitly state that they left their brethren in Egypt, it explains why the lineage of Zara suddenly ends at Zara's sons. The only thing that the Old Testament tells us about Zara's sons is that they were considered as very wise men, almost as wise as King Solomon himself. 1 Kings chapter 4 verses 30 to 31. And it reads, "And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the east country, and all the wisdom of Egypt. For he was wiser than all men, than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, and Calcol, and Darda." As it turns out, the sons of Zara dropped out of the Old Testament and straight onto the pages of history as the kings of Europe. Now you can pick up Darda's story in the Iliad. So Darda became known as Dardanus, and he was a father of Eryxonius, who was the father of Tros. Now Tros founded the city of Troy. So how do we know that Darda and Dardanus are the one and the same? Well, on the way between Egypt and Troy is a place called the Dardanelles. Yeah, and there's also a place called Dardania. So it's that was the custom to name a place after people who lived there. Now Calcol founded the city of Athens, and he was the father of the Milesians, the Iberians, and the Celts. The Iberians established Zaragoza, literally meaning the stronghold of Zara, in the Hebrew Valley in Spain. And then they went westward to Ireland, which they called Iberni, shortened to Ern, which was Latinized to Hibernia. But they got there about 1699 BC and became the royal dynasty in Ulster, The tribe of Dan invaded Ulster in around 1296 BC, and in the northeast of Ireland you'll find places like Dan Sawar and Dan Sobies, probably murdering those names. But in around about 1000 BC, the Danites ceded to the Tsarites, the royal dynasty, and they were the Iberians who called themselves Milesians. And you can see on the original Ulster flag the red hand of Zara. Now, some of those Tsarites went on to Scotland via the Hebrides, so Iberia, Hibernia and Hebrides. When the city of Troy was destroyed, Aeneas, the last of the royal blood of Zara Judah, escaped into Italy, and he married the daughter of King Latinus, and it was Aeneas who founded the city of Rome. Aeneas' grandson, Brutus, left Italy, and Brutus landed in Totnes in 1103 BC. He was met by 3 Welsh tribes of his brethren who proclaimed him king of the whole island. The Welsh were the Cymri, the Israelites from the northern kingdom, descendants of King Omri of Israel. Now, Brutus founded the capital city of Troyanova, New Troy, which eventually became London. And the whole country was named after him, Britannia. And after Britannia was founded, I believe that the many so-called invasions that characterise British history were not invasions at all, but a gathering to a place of sanctuary. The Saxons, literally the sons of Isaac, the Normans or Noir men, the Gauls and the Scythians were all brethren, tribes from Zara Judah, and those from the northern kingdom returning from the Assyrian captivity. What muddies the waters here is that the arch enemies of the Israelites, the children of Israel's brother Esau, known as the Edomites, were basically getting involved here. Their method of warfare was to infiltrate a population, gain power, then kill the men, rape the women, and take on the identity of the people they just conquered, and then rewrite the history so that the original people never existed. And they became known as the name stealers. So whereas the Saxons, the sons of Isaac, arrived in Britain, they were welcomed as brethren. But the arrival of the Anglo-Saxons, the angelic sons of Isaac, that's Esau mixing with the fallen angel DNA, well, that was an invasion. So with every arrival of friends, there was a matching invasion of foes disguised as friends. So that's why British history doesn't make much sense. But just as the Most High sent Joseph into Egypt to prepare a place for the nation of Israel to survive the famine, Great Britannia was being prepared to play a far more significant role. So the line of Phares led to King David, and the sceptre started with him and was passed down the Davidic line of Judean kings. But most of these kings were wicked, and the prophet Ezekiel predicted that that line would be cut off. So that's in Ezekiel chapter 17 verses 22 to 24. And it reads, "Thus saith the Lord God, I will also take the highest branch of the high cedar, and I will set it. I will crop off the top of his young twigs, a tender one, and will plant it upon a high mountain and eminent. In the mountain of the height of Israel I will plant it, and it shall bring forth boughs and bear fruit, and be a goodly cedar. And under it shall dwell all fowl of every wing. In the shadow of the branches thereof shall they dwell. And all the trees in the field shall know that I, the Lord, have brought down the high tree, have exalted the low tree, have dried up the green tree, and have made the dry tree to flourish. I, the Lord, have spoken and have done it." The contradiction here would be that the Most High has already promised David that his throne would last forever. So while indeed the line of kings will be broken, it will however have to continue in a different form. Ezekiel states that a tender twig will be taken from the royal tree and will be replanted and become fruitful in another faraway land. and that the royal tree or high tree will be cut down, and a new tree, described as a low tree, will gain prominence. If we carry on to Ezekiel chapter 21 verse 25, it reads, "And thou, profane, wicked prince of Israel, whose day is come, when iniquity shall have an end, thus saith the Lord God, remove the diadem, take off the crown. This shall not be the same. Exalt him that is low, and abase him that is high. I will overturn it, and it shall be no more, until he come whose right it is, and I will give it to him." So here Ezekiel goes into further details, and he says that there will be 3 overturns, and then the line of kings will end until someone who has the automatic right to be king will come along and claim the sceptre. Now, Christians will claim that that one is their idol, JC.
Nice try and good luck to you. And I'm sorry.
But as we'll see, there is only one person that could satisfy the Most High's promises and his prophets' predictions. So in 588 BC, the Judeans were taken into captivity in Babylon, and Nebuchadnezzar made Zedekiah king of the vassal state of those who were left behind in the land. So that's in 2 Kings chapter 24 verses 17 to 20. And it reads, "And the king of Babylon made Mattaniah, his father's brother, king in his stead, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For through the anger of the Lord it came to pass in Jerusalem and Judah till he cast them out of his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon." So Jeremiah was the prophet in those days, and he was given a mysterious mission. So that's Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 10. "See, I have this day set thee over the nations and over the kingdoms, to root out and to pull down and to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant." So Jeremiah warned Zedekiah not to rebel against Nebuchadnezzar, but nobody believed him, and they thought that he was working for the Chaldeans, so they put him in prison. But then Jeremiah's prophecy came to pass. That's in Jeremiah chapter 52 verses 8 to 11. And it reads, "But the army of the Chaldees pursued the king and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. Then they took the king and carried him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah in the land of Hamath, where he gave judgment upon him. And the king of Babylon slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes. He slew also all the princes of Judah in Riblah. Then he put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and the king of Babylon bound him in chains and carried him to Babylon, and they put him in prison till the day of his death." With the death of Zedekiah and his sons and all the princes of Judah, the Davidic line of kings was broken, as foretold by Ezekiel. And this was also the breach that the midwife spoke of at the birth of Pharaoh. But fortunately, this is where Jeremiah's mission came in. Jeremiah chapter 39 verses 11 to 14, and it reads, "Now Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, gave charge concerning Jeremiah to Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, saying, Take him, and look well to him, and do him no harm, but do unto him even as he shall say unto thee. Even they sent and took Jeremiah out of the court of the prison, and committed him unto Gedaliah the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, and that he should carry him home. And so he dwelt among the people." Jeremiah was released from prison, and he elected to go to Mizpah with the remnant of the Judeans. And this is where we learn that amongst the remnant are the king's daughters. That's in Jeremiah chapter 41, verse 10. Then Ishmael carried away captive all the residue of the people that were in Mizpah, even the king's daughters, and all the people that remained in Mizpah, who Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, committed to Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam. And Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, carried them away captive and departed to go over to the Ammonites. They're quickly rescued, and the people ask Jeremiah to consult with the Most High about what they should do. The Most High told them to stay where they were, and under no circumstances go to Egypt. And if they were to go to Egypt, then they'd be cursed. Now, as usual, they didn't believe Jeremiah, and they all went to Egypt. Jeremiah and the king's daughters had no choice but to go with them. And Jeremiah took certain treasures that the Babylonians didn't find. And they are the Ark of the Covenant, the Stone of Destiny, the stone that Jacob rested his head on when he fought with the angel, the harp of King David, the breastplate of the high priest, and certain other artifacts. And they all went to Tanis in Egypt. It's funny that in the film Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones locates the Ark in Tanis in Egypt.
Nazis have discovered Tanis.
Just what does that mean to you, Tanis?
Well, the city of Tanis is one of the possible resting places of the Lost Ark.
The Lost Ark?
Yeah, the Ark of the Covenant, the chest the Hebrews used to carry around the Ten Commandments.
What do you mean, Commandments? You're talking about the Ten Commandments?
Yes, the actual Ten Commandments, the original stone tablets that Moses brought down out of Mount Horeb and smashed, if you believe in that sort of thing. You guys ever go to Sunday school?
Well,
Oh, look. The Hebrews took the broken pieces and put them in the Ark. When they settled in Canaan, they put the Ark in a place called the Temple of Solomon.
in Jerusalem.
Where it stayed for many years, until all of a sudden, whoosh, is gone.
Where?
Well, nobody knows where or when.
I think that's a little nod to the truth by the producers of the film that wear those small hats. So the Ark was safely hidden from the Babylonians because there's no record of them finding it and carrying it away. And we know that Jeremiah had access to the Ark, and we can find that in 2 Maccabees. That's 2 Maccabees chapter 2 verses 1 to 5. It is also found in the records that Jeremy the prophet commanded them that were carried away to take of the fire as it had been signified, and how the prophet, having given them the law, charged them not to forget the commandments of the Lord, and that they should not err in their minds when they see images of gold and silver with their ornaments. And with other such speeches exhorted he them that the law should not depart from their hearts. It is also contained in the same writing that the prophet, being warned of God, commanded that the tabernacle and the ark go with him, and as he went forth into the mountains where Moses climbed up and saw the heritage of God. So yes, Jeremiah had access to the ark and the other treasures. In Egypt, the king's daughters were recognized as royalty, and one of the daughters, Tefi, was adopted by the Pharaoh, and they stayed in the palace that was given to Tefi by the Pharaoh. The royal party stayed at Tanis for a little while until Jeremiah was warned by the Most High that Nebuchadnezzar would invade Egypt and that they must leave and take the ark to somewhere that was safe. So Jeremiah's group left Tanis and booked passage on a ship of Tyre piloted by a Danite, and they arrived at Carthage, but a storm blew them north. And it was so violent it tore their sails, and 7 days later they arrived at an unknown land they weren't sure of, and they managed to capture a soldier, and this soldier refused to talk to any of them apart from when they saw Jeremiah and Tefi. Well, he recognized their authority and started talking. And he told them that they were in Italy and that they should leave quickly because the Romans at the time had no love for Danites or Tyrians. But immediately he recognized the royalty of Tephi and the authority that Jeremiah had. So they quickly left and soon arrived at Gibraltar, and there they were met by Gadites, and these Gadites immediately again recognized the royalty of Tephi and the authority of Jeremiah, and Tephi was proclaimed Queen of Gibraltar. And while she was there, she ended the pagan worship of an idol called Melkarth and turned them back to worshipping the Most High. And the city of, I think it was called Kaya Melkarth, was renamed Tyre, which it still is today. It's Tyre in Barcelona. And this idol had this golden trident in its right hand. And when the idol was broken in half, the ruler of Gibraltar basically gave Tephi the golden trident to go along with this olive branch that she'd brought with her from Jerusalem. So, funnily enough, if you've got a 50p piece, so if you're in the UK and you have a 50 pence piece, on the front of that 50 pence piece is this character, mythical warrior queen called Britannia, but you know she's holding a golden trident or a trident and an olive branch, and she's sitting next to a lion of Judah, and she's wearing what looks like a Trojan helmet. So what that's telling you is that this is a depiction of the Tephi, the Queen of Gibraltar and Ireland, as it happens. From Gibraltar, they sailed to Brogan in northern Spain, where Ireland apparently can be seen from the towers there. And once again, Tephi was recognised as the Queen and adopted as the daughter of the Israelite ruler Ith-Sian. From Brogan, they set off for Ireland, but they got caught in a violent storm where they lost their oars and their rudder. And so the hand of the Most High guided them into a safe bay near St Michael's Mount in Cornwall. There they met Elatha, the Israelite ruler of Cornwall and kinsman to Ith-Sian. And Elatha welcomed them, repaired their boat and sent messages to the High King of Ireland to let him know that the Queen of Jerusalem was on her way. When she told Elatha what happened to Jerusalem, he wept bitterly and renamed the place that they were at Marazion. Now Marazion means bitter for Jerusalem, and it's still named that today. Tephi finally landed in Howth near Dublin in Ireland on the 18th of June 583 BC. Jeremiah, renamed Olam Fola, landed in Ireland with the Ark of the Covenant and all the relics and artifacts that he brought with him, including David's harp, which features as the Irish national emblem. Tephi married Eochaid the Herriman, High King of Ireland. Eochaid was from the Zara Red Hand branch of Judah, and Tephi was from the line of David, from the Pharez branch of Judah. And so the breach between Judah's twin sons was finally healed. They were married and crowned over the Stone of Destiny. Their union is symbolised on the new Ulster flag, where the red hand of Zara is mounted upon the Star of David. I know it's not really the Star of David, but anyway. And there's a single royal crown that symbolises the union of the two royal lines. This was the first of the three overturns where the sceptre was passed from Judea to Ireland. Jeremiah, having completed his mission and replanted the royal tree in a land of sanctuary, as well as securing the Ark of the Covenant. Well, he died on the 21st of September 581 BC. Many Irish kings descended from Eochaid the Herriman, and they were crowned on the Stone of Destiny. That is until the second overturn, when Fergus left Ireland with the stone for Scotland, and he was crowned on it as the first king of Scotland. So the sceptre was passed from Ireland to Scotland. I'm not doing this story justice. It's an amazing story. It reads like a Lord of the Rings adventure. And you know, you can, if you squint your eyes, you can kind of see it. It's an aged elder prophet or wizard. He'd be considered a wizard because he knows what's coming in the future. An aged wizard with some little ones. The queens of or the king's daughters. Going on a quest and going from country to country and being recognised as royalty. No, it's an amazing story, and if you get some time, go and look into. I think there is a book. I know there is a book called the Book of Tephi, and it's all in rhyme, but it's again nonetheless an amazing story. So back to our story. The third and final overturn came about when King James VI of Scotland and the First of England was crowned in Westminster on the Stone of Destiny that had been stolen and taken there by Edward I. This created the United Kingdom of Israelite clans and the Union Jack, which actually means the reunification of Jacob. James was succeeded by his son, Charles I, and his grandson, Charles II, and James II. But the final punishment of the Israelites had already begun, ending the relative peace that allowed their numbers to multiply. And you can read about that in Isaiah chapter 41, verse 1. Keep silence before me, O islands, and let the people renew their strength. Let them come near, and then let them speak. Let us come near together to judgment. Who has raised up the righteous man from the east? That's Jeremiah. Called him to his foot, gave the nations before him, and made him rule over kings. He gave them as the dust to his sword, and has driven stubble to his bow. For 2,000 years, the British Isles were a sanctuary for the Israelites. And while history doesn't explicitly relate how the Israelites disobeyed the Most High, it's a safe bet that it was probably the adoption of the pagan Christian religion that kindled the anger of the Most High against them. For just over 1,000 years, the Anglish name stealers had been infiltrating the land. And after King James became king over England, they started to make their move. They'd previously instituted a parliament to limit the powers of the king, and now they set about undermining the monarchy. Oliver Cromwell was used to kill or deport the Irish, Welsh, Scots and English Jacobites, political prisoners, vagrants, poor people, criminals or anyone who fit the description of an Israelite, to the Caribbean and the Americas. Oliver Cromwell invaded Ireland in 1649 and he massacred the people there, and he paid his soldiers with stolen Irish land. And so by 1653 the whole male population of Ireland had either been killed or sent into slavery in the West Indies, and over 90% of the land was confiscated by the English, who took on the identities of the Irish. Oliver Cromwell's campaign in Wales started in 1648 in the Second English Civil War, and the same savage massacres and deportations to the West Indies happened there. After the execution of Charles I, Oliver Cromwell invaded and attacked Scotland in 1650, and the same savage massacres and deportations to the West Indies happened there too. these civil wars were essentially race wars. And it wasn't just war, it was hatred with evil acts of extreme savagery and brutality. It was about expunging the tribe of Judah from this land. The final removal of the Israelitish was when King James II was deposed in a so-called Glorious Revolution, where James II was replaced by the white Germanic William of Orange. John Mackie was employed by William of Orange as a spy to root out the royal remnant of Judah. In his book, The Memoirs of the Secret Services of John Mackie, he listed the royalty and nobility, including a full physical description. Essentially, it was a guidebook for who to target. So I'm showing a few of the entries here. The first here is Charles, Duke of St Albans. He's the son of King Charles II and is described as of a black complexion. Not as tall as the Duke of Northumberland, yet very like King Charles. So, you know, if he's very like King Charles, he'll be a black man as well. Then another grandson of King Charles, and this is Charles Fitzroy, Duke of Grafton, and he's described again a tall black man. Charles Lennos. Why are all King Charles's sons called Charles? Well, Charles Lennos, Duke of Richmond, son to King Charles II. Again, he's a well-shaped man of black complexion, much like King Charles. George Fitzroy, okay, departing from the custom here, he's also a son of King Charles II, and he's also described as a tall black man, like his father the king. John, Duke of Newcastle, he's again a black, ruddy complexioned man. Now that answers the idea that ruddy means white. Ruddy doesn't mean white. Ruddy means a black man who's got reddish tones. In fact, I'm described as a ruddy man. Actually, a guy in St Lucia stopped me and called me Red Man. He said, "Hey, Red Man," because I'm a kind of red colour compared to, let's say, Wesley Snipes or Seal. So that's what ruddy means. And the last one here, Daniel, Earl of Nottingham, the Secretary of State. He's described as a very black man, like a Spaniard or a Jew. In the book Jacobite Gleanings from State Manuscripts, there is a list and description of 150 rebel prisoners that were taken aboard a ship called the Veteran and transported to Martinique in 1745. And as you can see here, they look like pretty ordinary people. If you look down the list, you can see people like James Nielsen, who's a 26-year-old labourer from Aberdeen, and he's described as black and swarthy. Well, swarthy actually means black, so he must be very black. You've got, I don't know, William Robertson, a labourer from Perth, brown, well-made. James Lackey, a weaver from Edinburgh, black and straight. And underneath him you've got George Bain, who's also a labourer from Aberdeen, and he's described as swarthy. So as you go down the list, you can see that these are all black people, and I imagine where it says pale-faced or fair, it doesn't mean white. I think it would mean light-skinned or even half-caste. And what the sense you get here from when you look down this list is that these are ordinary, very ordinary people. They've got ordinary Scottish names, and they're black people. So the idea that the slaves got their names from their masters is debunked here. They actually went into slavery and they kept their names intact. And just like that, the British were removed from the land and replaced by English name stealers who took on the identities of the Irish, Scottish, Welsh and Britons. And history was erased and rewritten so that the original black Hebrew inhabitants never existed. Now, if you think all that sounds far-fetched, then consider how 300 years ago an Australian was a very black man. Now an Australian is a white European, and the memory of the Aborigines is almost gone. Now I say Aborigines, not Aborigines, because the prefix ab means not, right? Just like normal and abnormal. Yeah, it's word magic. The transatlantic slave trade started simultaneously with the mass deportation and enslavement of Israelites previously expelled from Spain and Portugal, from West Africa, as well as similar expulsions across European countries. The same slavery and affliction was imposed on the rest of the Israelites living in sub-Saharan Africa under colonialism. Virtually overnight, the whole nation of Judah went into 400 years of slavery and affliction as prophesied in Genesis. And you'll find that in Genesis chapter 15 verse 13. And it reads, "And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. That slavery and affliction began in 1619 and ended 400 years later in the last days on 21st of August 2019. This is the ending that Ezekiel said would follow the third overturn. I'll remind you, Ezekiel 21 verse 27, I will overturn it, and it shall be no more until he come whose right it is, and I'll give it to him. Hosea also made a prophecy about this time, and that's in Hosea chapter 3 verse 4, and it reads, For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image, and without an ephod, and without a teraphim. This would seem like a contradiction, because the Most High had already promised that the sceptre shall not depart from Judah. But as we'll see, it's not a contradiction. We look at 2 Samuel chapter 7 verses 14 to 16. I will be his father, and he will be my son. If he commit iniquity, then I will chasten him with the rod of men, and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. And thine house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. And in 2 Maccabees chapter 7 verses 32 and 33, it reads, For we suffer because of our sins. And though the living Lord be angry with us for a little while for our chastening and correction, yet shall he be at one again with his servants. The sceptre has not departed. It's been taken away for a time while the Israelites were being punished for their iniquity. We're now at the time when the sceptre is about to be returned. So who is the one that Ezekiel says has the right to reclaim it? Ezekiel chapter 21 verse 27. I will overturn it, and it shall be no more until he come whose right it is, and I will give it to him. So the Christians will say that it's their idol, JC, who will claim the sceptre of Judah and be the king. But there is somebody who not only has a prior claim to it, but he's the one that the Most High says numerous times will be raised up to claim it. So let's go back to Hosea to finish his prophecy. So that's Hosea chapter 3 verses 4 and 5. So it reads, For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image, and without an ephod, and without teraphim. Afterward shall the children of Israel return and seek the Lord their God, and David their king, and shall fear the Lord and his goodness in the latter days. Right, so it says very specifically that David himself will return in the latter days. And we can get confirmation of that from Jeremiah, where it says in Jeremiah chapter 30, verses 7 to 9, Alas, for the day is great, so that none is like it, even the time of Jacob's trouble, the 400 years. But he shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. But they shall serve the Lord their God, and David their king, whom I shall raise up to them. So there's a second witness there that David, the King David, will be raised up and come back in the latter days. It doesn't say son of David. It doesn't say the seed of David or the line of David or David's descendants. It just says David. So we can get another witness here from Ezekiel, Ezekiel chapter 34, verses 22 to 24. And it reads, Therefore will I save my flock, and they shall no more be a prey. And I will judge between cattle and cattle, and I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant David. He shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd. And I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David, a prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken it. And again, in Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 21 to 26. And it reads, And I say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen whither they have gone, and I will gather them on every side, and I will bring them into their own land, and I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all. And they shall no more be two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with their transgressions, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So they shall be my people, and I will be their God. And David, my servant, which shall be king over them, and they shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments, and observe my statutes, and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt. And they shall dwell therein, even they and their children, and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I shall place them and multiply them, and set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. And there's one more. Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 5. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. Now, this is where the Christians get the idea that it will be a descendant of David and not David himself, because it says unto David, right? So kind of hinting that it's somebody who comes from David. But if we look at the Hebrew, we can see the deception. So if you actually look at the actual Hebrew word where it's translated as unto David, you can see it's just the word David. Now, I had this argument with somebody a couple of days ago. The Paleo-Hebrew is a pictographic language that you get by intuition. It's not a linear symbolic language like English is. So it doesn't have prepositions and words like unto. Right? That was an English word that was added into the text, right, to make it readable in English. Right? But if you translate it as it should be translated, you know, that word just being David, it would read, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and execute judgment and justice in the earth." Right? And a, again, they're words that are just added in. They didn't exist in Hebrew. But that's where they get this idea, and you know, it's the hill that they die on. Right? So far, the Most High's word has never returned void, and right now we're waiting for the Most High to redeem us from our captivity, and for the return of the King, the return of King David. Thanks for listening.
Dream.